Now then, welcome back again to the Sitcom Archive Deep Dive Overdrive, SADDO for short, with me, Eggs Benedict.
And me, Alison Barton-Simmons.
We are, if you don't know by now, a couple of SADDOs, one in Bolton in the UK, one in New Zealand, who like to look back on every single episode made of our favourite old sitcoms, and this first series of the show is all about The Good Life. So each week, we take an episode of The Good Life, and we pull it the fuck apart, have a look at everything that happens in it, and talk about all sorts of things, including the fashion of the time and 70s colour palettes and the brass noises and all that sort of things.
Yeah, politics, all sorts. There's nothing really that we haven't touched on, I don't think.
No. And one of the things that we touch on pretty much every week is what a shithouse Tom Good is. It's sort of bugbear, isn't it?
It raises its head every week, I think, doesn't it?
And he is particular shithouse this week, Al, don't you think?
Oh, I did. I thought of you while I was rewatching, because it is a particularly bad episode for Tom.
Somebody sent me a message saying, leave Tom alone. So I'm just putting this out there to begin with. I might leave Tom alone after this one, but he's particularly bad in this one.
Yeah. I don't think you wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't raise the issue. I don't think.
No. I've got carte blanche on Tom for this week, haven't I?
Yeah.
Right. Hey, let's get stuck into it. So, you can listen to us without watching the episodes, of course, but if you want to recap the 45-year-old episodes that we're talking about, they're all on Dailymotion. Just hop along there and search for the episode that corresponds to the show that you're listening to. Also, if you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, we tweet and link out links where you can watch the show. And I've started embedding the videos in our website, which is saddo.club. So if you're listening on the website, you can also watch the video on the website.
Fab.
I don't know why I didn't do that to begin with. It occurred to me last week. I should just embed the video in the fucking webpage. So
yeah, they're available though, and they're quite easy to find out. Once you know how to find them on like Dailymotion, they're quite easy to get hold of.
Yeah, old sitcoms tend to be. I thought BritBox would be clamping down on them, but all these old things, they just seem to be easy to find, to be honest.
I suppose the ad thing on Dailymotion can get a bit frustrating, I suppose, but...
Yeah, that's true. I happened to come across another old sitcom written by Bob Larby and John Esmond last week.
Another one?
Yeah, it was on Reddit, a Reddit subreddit that I'm in about old British media, obscure British media or something.
Oh.
And it was a show about a footballer from Birmingham who's signed by a fictional London football club. And it was a sitcom written by Larby and Esmond, I reckon, late 70s, maybe just after The Good Life.
Okay.
It wasn't wonderful, I'll be honest, but not everything you write can be a hit, can it?
That's true, especially if you've put all the effort that they did into The Good Life. I'd want to lie down after that. I wouldn't want to be writing anything else, I don't think, straight away.
No, they were obviously just, every couple of years they come out with something brilliant, like Everdegrees and Circles or Brushstrokes.
Yeah, and there must be things in between that are just not quite hitting the mark, perhaps.
It's like Premier League striker going through a rut, isn't it? They're still out there.
Just like that.
They're still out there plugging away, running for the team, running the channels.
Yeah.
Getting in the odd cross. Don't know where this analogy's going. So that show is called Feet First, if you want to look it up. Like I say, it was passable. So if you're a completist and you want to dive into Esmond and Larby's entire back catalogue. The other thing I watched this week, Al, was at the weekend I watched some old 80s movies.
All right.
I watched one of Tom Cruise's first movies, which obviously isn't British. It was the one where he's dancing around in his kecks. Risky Business?
Risky Business, where he slides in with his shirt on and his socks.
Yeah.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing to write
Rebecca De Mornay?
Yeah, she was quite pretty in it, yeah.
Yeah.
She was a hooker.
She was.
That was, to be honest, that was probably more insulting than Pretty Woman. Yet Pretty Woman got a load of grief, didn't it? For the way it treated prostitutes. But this one I thought was probably worse. But maybe it was under the radar because it didn't have any big stars in, because it was the start of Tom Cruise's career, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But the other one I watched was Rita, Sue and Bob 2.
Oh my goodness, that's been on here in the UK on TV this week.
It's bizarre, isn't it? I just...
Yeah. What made you want to watch that?
I was just scrolling through things. You know, you do, and you just stop and you go, I'll bang a bit of this on.
Yeah.
I was just going to have a look at Black Lace giving it, we're having a gang bang, we're having a ball. And then I ended up just watching the whole thing.
Yeah. Does it? Do you know what? It's years since I have watched it. Is it? What's it like watching it back? Is it? Do you get the same sort of vibe as you do from old 70s sitcoms?
I think, yeah. It's. I suppose it's dated, but it's still fun. It's one of those shows, one of those movies you wouldn't get away with. You know the way we say that occasionally about things that come up in The Good Life, like a little bit of like Tom doing his Chinese eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah. But
in this, you just think this is a story about a middle-aged man who preys on school children, babysitters, presumably 15 or something.
Yeah.
And takes them out into the moors and gives them a jump in their language.
Yeah.
Because they're always like, "Come on, Bob, are we going for a jump?"
You'd be signing a register now, wouldn't you, if you got involved with any of that?
Well, in one scene, he turns up at the school while they're doing PE. They're playing tennis or something, or badminton. I think it's tennis. And he's just hanging around on the hill looking like a pedo. Just giving it the eyes like, "Come on, bunk off so we can have a jump."
Oh, my God.
And takes them up to the moors, and then he has sex with them both in a very rigid missionary position. And then, of course, he says that line, "Is that it?" And he says, "I thought they were great."
I remember watching Downton Abbey for the first time, and one of the women in Rita Sue and Bob 2 is in Downton Abbey, Siobhan Finneran. And obviously the characters, the characters are like just so different. But yeah, just feeling a bit sort of shocked that she turned up in Downton being all serious and wearing black. And she was one of these little young scallies in Rita Sue and Bob 2.
Yeah, it's definitely entertaining in a nostalgic way, looking at the old council estates that they lived on and like the dogs just roaming around. Because I remember in Nan's part of Liverpool, there's just random dogs running around everywhere.
Yeah, you don't just get dogs anymore, just randomly wandering around, do you?
No, it's almost a shame. Although I suppose not if you get bit by them and end up with rabies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of them films that you enjoy from a nostalgia point of view. So there you go. If you like old British sitcoms, there's a chance you'll like old British comedy movies as well. So maybe check it out if you never have. Although be prepared to be shocked at how inappropriate it is. That's the only caveat, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, definitely.
So should we get stuck into this week's episode, which is Series 4, Episode 4. We're getting really close to the end now.
I know.
It's called The Weaver's Tale.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life. Good life.
So this one starts, doesn't it, with Tom walking into his living room while Barbara is making herself busy.
Yeah.
Making clothes. And Tom is dressed like my granddad. He's sort of how I remember my granddad always being dressed. And yet my granddad was in his 60s and 70s, and Tom here is 43, which is the same age as me.
Yeah.
So I just thought he looked old before his time here, Tom, as he sort of blustered in that very noisy Tom-like way.
Yeah.
Struck me how old he looked compared to this sort of youthful wife of his.
Isn't it strange how over the decades, like, I remember my mum being the age I am now and dressing like the picture I have of a mum in my head. I don't feel like I dress like a mum. As time's gone on, it's just become sort of that what I picture has become less and less the reality, I think. And Tom was definitely like that. He was dressed like an old man.
Yes. I mean, even Bob in Rita Sue and Bob too didn't dress as old as Tom does in this scene.
Yeah.
You know, I know that was slightly later, maybe a decade later. Maybe that made all the difference. Because if you think about we're not in fashion corner yet, but if you think about the delineation between 70s fashion and 80s fashion, it's obvious. You can look at a scene and pick a decade. Maybe even so for the 90s. But now, if you showed me a scene full of people all dressed differently from now, and then a scene from 15 years ago, I don't think you'd see a huge amount of difference the way that you did in the eras gone by.
No, I think haircuts give it away.
They can, yeah. But again, 70s and 80s haircuts differ vastly. Not so much between the noughties and the... What do you call this decade we're in now? The 20s, I suppose.
20s, yeah.
The new 20s.
The new 20s.
Barbara's cutting up Tom's jersey to make a tabard.
Yes.
And Tom's quite indignant, isn't he? Because he liked it. He liked this jersey.
Yeah.
And he's sort of being a pain and telling her what to do. And it just elicits a tired, "Yes, Tom," from Barbara. And then she tells him to go away.
She's making like leg warmers as well from the arms.
Yeah. She's being economical, isn't she, by reusing old things to make new things.
If she'd not asked Tom, though, just playing devil's advocate here, if she's not said to Tom, "I'm going to cut up your jumper to make a tabard and leggings," yeah, I can understand him being a bit put out.
Well, not to get ahead of ourselves, she gets a bit annoyed at him making unilateral decisions later in the episode, doesn't she?
Yes.
Rightly so, but she's done it here with his clothes. So.
Yeah.
If you think back again, and this is what comes from being anal like we have, if you think back again, he also, though, gave something to the rag and bone man in episode 3 of hers.
Yes. Was it the hairdryer?
Yeah, without her permission.
Yeah.
So what goes around comes around, Tom, you dick. So the goods have made, it transpires, nearly 200 quid on selling soft fruits.
That's good going, isn't it, for strawberries and raspberries?
Well, yeah, 200 quid as we when we did Brucey's Prices Right the other week.
Yeah.
I think we worked out that 200 quid's probably over £1,000, isn't it, in today's money?
That's amazing. That was a big chunk.
So yeah, good on them. And Barbara's, Barbara's cock a hoop.
She is.
We won. We actually won at something. I thought that was quite sweet because they don't have they don't have a lot of luck sometimes, do they?
No.
But they've made this money. I think you see a key difference between the goods here is in the way that they approach things, because Tom starts planning a trip to Rio in his head, whereas Barbara is just being far more pragmatic and practical and working out the cost of their forthcoming bills and the essentials that they need to get through the next however long, whatever period that she's planning for. And she works out that they have a £10 float once everything's been taken into account.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot of money.
Massive. That's huge for them, isn't it? To have profit at all, but to have a float that you can sort of do something with, must be quite nice.
And Tom, to give him his dues, the first thing he says is, "Let's buy you something."
That's quite sweet.
Yeah, I thought that. I can be fair to Tom. He did think of her first, and he does do that in many episodes. He sacrifices things to give her a treat every now and again.
Yeah.
Celebrating their £10 float, Tom and Barbara are just about to get down and dirty and do the dance with no pants when Margo bursts in. This happens a lot, actually, doesn't it?
It does. Margo calling.
She bursts in wearing half an abattoir.
Yes.
Fur everywhere. Margo has popped around to ask Barbara to keep an eye out for the TV repairman, the television set repairman.
Yes, to give him his full title, yeah. She doesn't trust the tradesman, so she wants Barbara to sort of oversee all this.
But when she says she wants the television repairman's coming around, for some reason Tom says, "Hello," suggestively. Did you notice that?
I didn't. Does she think that Margot's going to have a wicked way with the television set repairman?
I didn't really get it. I think it fell flat, but maybe that's what Tom was suggesting. I don't know. But then Tom tries to catch a lift to Dorking with Margo, so he can pick up some chicken feed.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got to pick up some chicken feed, and Margo's clearly not keen on travelling or going anywhere with Tom, and sometimes it makes you wonder if she actively dislikes Tom.
Well, she does say to him, when they're talking about having a companion on the journey, Margo does say, "If that means you, I wouldn't. In other words, I wouldn't want you to come with me." So she says something quite interesting after this. She says to the goods, "You use me, you two," which I thought was quite a poignant thing to just for her to drop into conversation, because she must feel, I don't know, a little bit resentful perhaps that the goods literally do rely on the Ledbetters quite heavily for all the bits that are missing in between what they can do for themselves and what they can provide.
They're heavily reliant on her, and she knows it.
Yeah.
And I don't think she has a problem reminding them occasionally either. There's a funny visual gag as this scene ends, isn't there, when Barbara tells Tom not to keep asking for sweets and to hold hands nicely.
This did make me laugh. Is the way that he sort of moved and sort of skipped out of the door with Margo really tickled me.
It was all in the physical comedy from Richard Bryce, wasn't it? It was really, really well done by him. And the next thing you know, we're in the 70s high street heaven, which you must have loved.
Yes.
We're in outside Dorking, or wherever it was filmed, because, of course, The Good Life wasn't actually filmed in Surbiton. You know that, don't you?
No. Yeah, I knew that.
Northwood, yeah, which is not a million miles away. So in Dorking, or whatever town is a proxy for Dorking in this shot, we see Tom and Margo window shopping, and Margo is rather taken with a spinning wheel that's in the window.
Yeah, that shot looks brill. I'd love a right route round that shot.
Yes, it did look good, actually. Margo decides she's going to go in and get this wheel. She declines Tom's offer of haggling on her behalf.
Yeah.
And while she's talking to the shopkeeper, Tom's doing faces in the window at Margo, isn't he? And she doesn't appreciate it at all.
No, she's trying to shoo him away, isn't she, so that she can concentrate on what the shopkeeper's saying to her. But he just carries on.
Know your audience, Tom.
I know. Wrong time, Tom. Wrong time.
But then we get some really funky music to accompany footage.
Yes!
Tom walking to the cash and carry. This funky music kicks in, doesn't it?
I liked it. I like it when they just drop some beats in. Halfway through.
Drop some fat beats.
Total fat beats throughout an episode. Just out of the blue. I don't know if it warranted some funky music, just walking to a cash and carry.
I think the best funky music example is when Jerry and Barbara are doing the Mercy Dash with the piglet.
Oh, yeah, when they're driving down the road in the in Jerry's car.
Yeah.
And they get stopped by the police. Yeah.
So Tom's walking into the cash and carry / pawn shop, and this is where we get to see one of Larby and Esmond's idiosyncratic one-dimensional characters crop up.
Yeah, Ernie.
I enjoy them. I love them.
Ernie, the strange shop assistant. They're always really, odd, aren't they?
Yeah.
Odd characters. This guy in particular, Milton Johns, is
Not
the name
Milton
of the
Jones.
actor. Not Milton Jones, Milton Johns.
Because I looked up on TV.com or something like that, and it said Milton Jones, and I thought, and you clicked, and it was a clickable link, and it went to the comedian's webpage.
To actual Milton Jones? No, it's definitely no relation.
He'd have been about 3.
But he looked so familiar that I had to sit and Google for a while, because he looks like something or someone that I'd seen before. And he looks like there's an L.S. Lowry portrait called Man with Red Eyes, and he looked just like this guy. And it's a really sort of it's a really creepy sort of portrait. But I don't know, when I saw this guy on The Good Life, it just made me think of that painting, that portrait.
Did you also see his CV and all the things he's been in?
He's been in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I know. But then if you think
he looked familiar.
Yeah,
he did look familiar.
Probably not from that. But what else has he been in? I made a little note here. Hold on. He'd been in. He's one of these who's on the circuit.
Yeah.
Apparently he's still alive. He's 82 and he's known for playing oily, obsequious characters. He did Ever Decreasing Circles, Butterflies, Z-Cars, Yes Minister, Going Straight, which was the Porridge spin-off. Some Mothers Do Have Him. So he's done loads and loads of classic sitcoms.
He did. He was someone that I couldn't pinpoint when I saw his face where he was from, but I knew that he's one of them people that just crops up.
It is weird how you think about these guys cropping up in Star Wars, but then I went to see the last Star Wars movie and fucking Ade Edmondson popped up in it.
Yes, he did.
And I was
it threw me, that, actually.
Fucking hell's Vivian doing on the Death Star?
He's going to chuck something out the window, lose his head by poking it out.
It would have been great, and we're not watching The Bloody Good Life.
Oh, dear me.
This fella, anyway, what do you say his name was? Ernie?
Ernie, yeah.
He's a bit of a wet lettuce, isn't he?
He's hard work. He's hard work.
When Tom enters, he's reading a pamphlet called Pressure Selling. Sort of sets the scene for this guy. He's doesn't really know how to sell.
No.
And he's totally and needlessly transparent with Tom about his need for floor space, and that if Tom is buying literally anything, he has him over a barrel. He just says it to him. If you want to buy something, you've got me over a barrel.
Strange dude.
But then, except the problem is he doesn't have the cojones to make any executive decision in the absence of his boss.
No, his boss has to have the final say on things.
Yeah. So,
which is weird, yeah.
So Tom's totally confused, but he sort of says to him, well, I'm interested in this loom. And Ernie doesn't even know it was there. Apparently it was from when the ginger bloke were there. Just a random ginger bloke that we didn't need to know about. But Ernie fishes out the loom for Tom to have a look at. And what's happening here, it becomes clear, is that Tom sensed another way to leech off the Ledbetters, because if he gets a loom of his own and then avails himself of Margot's new spinning wheel, which he's off buying at that very moment,
yeah,
the goods can make their own clothes and add that to their sort of self-sufficiency lifestyle and routine.
He's very certain of himself, isn't he, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
He's very sure of himself that he could... I don't know what he's thinking he's going to be able to produce at home with a spinning wheel and his own loom. Although he did he do a weaving course? Was it a weaving course that he did?
Potting, wasn't it?
Potting. So did Barbara do a weaving course?
Yeah, you might be right there. Yeah.
So maybe he's got some skills.
Well, I think he wants Barbara to do it. I think you're right. It's a callback to when Barbara and Tom swapped, and Barbara is the weaver of the two of them. But why she learnt to do this without a loom and a wheel of her own anyway, I have no idea.
No.
Tom's got his plans, and he's sort of putting them into place, and eventually he convinces Ernie, the wet lettuce with the big bugger's grips, to sell him the loom for 10 quid, including delivery.
Bargain.
And then Ernie needlessly, suspiciously starts, inspecting the £10 note as if it's counterfeit.
Mm.
I don't know if there'd been a flurry of counterfeit £10 notes in... Where are we again? Where's my notes?
Dorking.
In Dorking. Yeah. Maybe he's accepted
a fake one recently, and that his boss is going to come back and give him what for if he takes another one.
Yeah, but he's holding it up to the light, isn't he? I mean, it must have been before the days where there was a transparent Queen's head in that little circle.
I know, yeah.
Probably would have been made a killing, actually. But probably a piece of piss to counterfeit money in the 70s.
I know, you could just hand draw him, couldn't you, I bet? Just draw some £10 notes.
Bravo, Jerry.
Back at the goods, Barbara has several buns in the oven, doesn't she?
She does.
She's sorting them out when Jerry pops in, looking totally fucked off with his lot. He just isn't a happy Jerry, is he?
No, he's not at all. He can't find Margo. Doesn't know where she is.
He's had a shit day and he's locked out. And then he's told that Margo's shopping, which...
God, that's a triple whammy, innit, of shitness.
Well, he just collapses disconsolately into Barbara's kitchen chair, like, oh, for fuck's sake. She's not shopping, is she?
Last time she went shopping, she spent 38 quid on a silver cigarette holder. So, yeah, I don't think he's holding out much hope for much money to be left in his account by the time she gets home.
Yeah. But he's enjoying complaining to Barbara about Margo with a sort of undercurrent of flirting, and...
Yeah.
It's almost like this sort of... I don't know how to articulate it. It's a sort of flirting technique which is all about pity me, poor me.
Yeah.
No wonder I have to get my checkbooks 2 at a time.
You're too easy with her.
Oh, my Diane. I feel like that little boy with his finger in the dike. As fast as I plug up one hole, she bursts out through another. You're not like that.
Well, I don't get the chance, Jerry. We don't have any money.
Oh, if Margo spends mine, you'd think I printed the stuff.
Well, there's no good complaining to me about it.
Yes, I know. I like complaining to you, then.
Oh, don't be silly.
Is that fair?
I think so, yeah. It almost... Because they do have a bit of a moment, don't they? Jerry and Barbara. And she's sort of telling him how he should deal with Margo and how women like to be treated by men, really. And says that when Tom's fair but firm, I go weak at the knees.
And Jerry goes weak at the knees at this point, doesn't he? Even though
he does indeed.
Down. Yeah, he's quite taken with that idea.
But then she has to remind him that Tom will be home in a minute. So, pull yourself together, Jerry.
Go get some soft porn out.
Yeah, but Jerry's quite insistent that Margo needs to realise, and this is what he says.
Damn it all! About time she realised I'm not just a slot machine that automatically produces the jackpot. Thanks again, Barbara.
So it's obviously a bit of a resentment, isn't it, this?
Yeah, Barbara's giving him a pep talk enough to motivate him to do something about Margo's spending. And he leaves quite purposefully, doesn't he, saying, thanks again, Barbara. But on his way out, he did a weird eye roll thing. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't.
He said, thanks again, Barbara. And obviously no one listening can see this, but you can. He sort of went.
Yeah.
And I thought, what was that about? But maybe I'm reading too much into it. But it seemed like he was doing an eye roll, which didn't gel with the fact that he seemed to be on a mission rather than dismissing her. But there you go. I might just be reading too much into it. Maybe a fly passed it over his field of vision and he was just watching
Maybe
the fly.
that's what it is. She's just watching the fly. Barbara's worried though now that she's done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
She's a bit concerned that she's sort of stirred it up a little bit.
She is a little shit stirrer with the Ledbetters.
Yeah.
Mind your own business,
I don't
Barbara.
know. Well, was she helping a friend there? Because if he's got an issue with her sort of going off and spending loads of money, Barbara, because Barbara's not aware of what's coming next and is perhaps just suggesting that, well, if you don't like it, Jerry, do something about it.
Yes, I suppose so. But I
Say
think,
something.
I think you're right, but in the past she's certainly dropped
has.
one or the other, usually Jerry, in the ship with Margo.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry.
Next thing we see Tom at home with his new loom, which Ernie evidently delivered, having ascertained that the 10 bob note is genuine.
It's all good.
And Tom unveils it to Barbara as a solution to their sort of make and men do clothes strategy situation. And Barbara points out immediately that they don't have any wool, and it's a bit optimistic to expect this to work.
Yeah.
I expected her to go off like a bottle of pop, or as you would say...
Like a chippy.
Up like a chippy, but she just got quietly angry this time, didn't she?
She was simmering.
Yeah.
She was definitely simmering at
Seething.
this stage, yeah. Yeah.
Because Tom spent the £10 float without consulting her.
This doesn't go down well.
But instead of apologising, Tom sarcastically remarks,
Well, I'm very, very sorry. Do you mind if I sit down?
Yes.
and I thought, oh, you fucking sailing close to the wind there.
Yeah. I'm sorry if you've been upset by it.
Yeah.
A la Priti Patel.
Yes, it was a bit, yeah.
But it was a definite non-apology, weren't it?
It definitely was, yeah. Even after she pointedly makes a speech and leaves the room, he just giggles and whistles to himself.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Tom. We cut to later and he's obviously getting the silent treatment, which to an attention whore like him is like being deprived of oxygen. So he basically apologises and Barbara instantly forgives him, which is more than he deserves.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're straight onto it straight away, aren't they? Sort of talking about where they could get possible source of wool from in order to weave their own clothes.
Yeah, he's a bit stubborn
the
though,
best
isn't
of
he?
it.
He's stubborn thinking he can make it work by gathering sheep's wool off barbed wire.
Yeah, that would be... I can't imagine anything worse than having to go and do that in order to use your loom. Yeah.
Imagine all the cuts. When I was a kid, my granddad used to take me out to the Wirral from Liverpool, and he'd take me to disused. Take me to the disabled toilets. No, he'd take me to the disused train stations of the Wirral.
Oh.
I know, it's a fucking treat. And he'd say, gather the blackberries, because he used to make homemade wine that tasted like piss.
Yeah.
So he'd say, gather the blackberries. And so I'd be gathering these blackberries dutifully from the fucking nettles around this disused platform.
Oh, God.
And then he'd be going, no, the good ones are up there. Reach up, and I'd be like, there's nettles. And he'd be like, never mind that. Honest to God, I'd be going home in his car covered in dock leaves.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
So, yeah, that sort of brought back some memories.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't want to be picking wool off barbed wire. And
No.
it's the sort of thing my granddad would have made Barbara do. Cheers, Bob. And, of course, this is all without even asking Margo's permission to use her spinning wheel.
I know. They're just making it all up without even sort of consulting Margo over the use of a spinning wheel.
Well, he's a daydreamer, and Barbara calls him out on his manipulative nature. Even Tom,
Absolutely.
Even Tom admits it's a bit sneaky, doesn't he, at this point?
Yeah.
But, of course, Barbara then realises that the rub here is that Jerry isn't going to sign the cheque because he's now a newly empowered...
She's talked him into standing up to her.
Yeah, he's a strong man now. He's like Putin. He's going to go home and put his foot down.
Ride a horse with no top on.
Yeah. Imagine that. That's a t-shirt
Ride
we should do.
Geraldine around the garden with no top on.
That's a t-shirt I'll get Anya to do as a design of Jerry riding around Geraldine topless. Would you buy it?
Yes.
And then, of course, at this point, Margo bursts in declaring that she's left Jerry.
Hello, Margo. What are you doing here?
I've left Jerry.
Why?
Because he wouldn't write a cheque for my spinning wheel.
Eh?
How dare he talk to me like that? I will not be harangued about the financial climate. I will not have his bank statements thrust under my nose. And above all, I will not be thrown about my own house like some rag doll.
What did he do?
He shook me by the elbows.
Again, all Tom can bring himself to care about with his friend upset and in turmoil in his kitchen here is his fucking spinning wheel.
Yeah.
He says, I tell you what, if I were you, I'd buy that spinning wheel out of my own money just to spite him. And it was quite a funny line, but it doesn't reflect well on Tom, does it?
Yeah. Barbara gets a bit cross with him, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She shouts at him. But Margot's going to go straight to her room at the goods because she's going to stay with the goods. And Tom says, don't use the wardrobe, it's full of onions.
Imagine kipping in there when the boiler comes on.
Oh, God, I bet it smells like a soup. Just sleeping in a soup.
Oh. But the following day, we see Barbara is worried about the Ledbetters, and Tom still hasn't come to his senses. He's still worried about Margo not buying this fucking spinning wheel. And he's even been round to see Jerry and try and convince him to buy it. What an absolute shithouse.
Yeah. Very manipulative.
They're just totally self-centred. Barbara calls him a snake in the grass and a hypocrite.
Yeah. And she's very right.
And then Tom calls her fatty.
Dick.
You know, at least pick on something genuine. There's nothing of her.
Yeah. No. Oh, what an arsehole.
Jerry pops in with a spinning wheel. He's gone and bought it, hasn't he, the soft get?
Oh, he loves Margo so much.
Well, this is very touching, actually. It's his peace offering. I was very annoyed at this point because Jerry's caved in. I was like, Jerry.
It's a very empty house without her. I'm working awfully hard at the moment. When I get home, house is warm and comfortable. She's always there. The dinner's prepared, the wine's chambrade. She's wearing a nice gown. I miss her. I've got 3 Polish buyers coming to dinner next week, and I don't know what Poles eat.
Yeah, he has got a bit of an ulterior motive, though.
Yes, it comes to light, doesn't it?
While he does say that he misses her, he misses the house being warm, the wine being poured, dinner's cooked, Margo wearing a gown, it actually turns out that he's got 3 Poles coming for tea the following week, and he doesn't know what to cook for them. So he needs to give her the spinning wheel to get her back.
Do you think that the writers sat around thinking, what nationality would be funniest in this sentence?
Poles.
3 Poles are coming round. So then Margo blusters in, declaring that she's now decided she needs to be self-sufficient in her own right, sort of thing, and she's got herself a job at the florist to pay for her spending, which of course isn't going to scratch the surface, is it?
It's not even going to... No help whatsoever.
But good for her nevertheless. She's decided to go out and work, and I think, more power to your elbow.
Yeah. Do you think she did? Or do you think it would have perhaps just been
a bluff?
A bluff.
I can't remember if in these last few episodes Margo's working at the florist's or not. We'll find out, won't we, in the coming weeks?
I think it'd be quite funny to see her working in the florist's.
That's a spin-off that could have happened.
Oh, it's missed a trick.
Margo's florists. Yeah. And there's a touching reunion when Margo sees the wheel and hugs Jerry and admits that she herself was being childish. It's quite sweet, isn't it?
It is. But the revelation about the actual spinning wheel itself is a good payoff, I think, in this episode, because I thought, it made me want to punch the air.
Yeah, or punch Tom. One of the two.
Yeah. Do both. Punch the air, but then sort of swipe at Tom as well.
He is horrified looking on to see that the wheel is not just ornamental, but Margo demonstrates it's actually a music box.
Oh.
And Barbara pisses her sides, doesn't she? Then she thinks she's stood there going, snarf, snarf.
She is, yeah, then they all laugh.
Yep, and that's it. It's a nice bit of karma, isn't it, at the end of this one, really? I think when you see Tom is mortified and he gets his comeuppance, serves him right.
Yeah. Well-deserved comeuppance, I think, isn't it? It doesn't stop him, though. It doesn't stop him sort of being a bit of a leech and the expectations of the Ledbetters.
Oh, no, the main thing...
Carries on.
The main thing that comes out of this episode, not to dwell on it any more than we need to, but Tom is a bona fide weapons-grade, irredeemable gobshite.
Yeah.
This episode, more than any other, with the possible exception of the last posh frock, demonstrates that to its fullness, doesn't it? The other thing that's interesting in this episode is probably the dynamic of the Ledbetters' relationship that we see.
Yeah, I think not only is Margo standing up to Jerry in this episode, she sort of follows through with it, which we don't see very often. We see it sort of just plastered over a little bit, and you never really see any kind of resolution. But in this, you see her saying, right, well, I'm not standing for this, I'm going. And then she sort of tries to make her own way a little bit, which doesn't really...
doesn't go anywhere. It'd be interesting if it lasted days to see what she would have done.
Yeah, what would she have done? Got herself her own flat on the high street and...
Yeah, lived above a butcher's in a shitty bedsit or something.
Can't imagine that.
On a florist's 2-day wages.
Yeah.
That would have been a quite dark and depressing spin-off.
It would actually. I feel quite sad now.
Margo sat there eating TV dinners.
Oh, no. Let's jolly it up.
Well, okay then. Should we jolly it up with MVP or Fashion Corner first?
Oh, let's do MVP first.
Okay. I know I like to predict yours. I think it's going to be one of the Ledbetters.
It is one of the Ledbetters. I'm going to go for Jerry this week.
Are you?
I am.
That's interesting, because so did I, and that draws him level at the top of the MVPs.
Is it?
I think he's level now. I'll have to double check it, but
Back at the top. Yeah, I think Jerry in this episode, despite the sort of flirty with Barbara, I think the fact that he loves Margo and really does want to make her happy. He wants her to be happy, and he realises what home comforts he gets out of Margo being at home and sort of playing along with her and her little sort of foibles. It's worth it. The £38 spent on a silver cigarette holder, I'm sure, means he gets more out of life than if he put his foot down and said, you're not having one.
Yeah, exactly. He puts his foot down, curbs Margo's spending, and he loves her too much to be without her. So
yeah,
I think he was a little bit weak going and buying that wheel. And I didn't get too worried about his flirting because it was very low level. It wasn't uncomfortable flirting to put Barbara.
No, it wasn't stuck in the dishwasher.
No
level, was it?
No, it didn't bring out the beast in him.
God, calm down, Jerry.
So yeah, Jerry is the new joint leader of the MVPs with Ernie.
So he could win. With
5 episodes to go, he could win, yeah. Do you think that Paul Eddington's family would be touched if we sent a trophy to the estate?
I think we should do that. We should put something together and send it.
Well, we may be counting our chickens before they've hatched, so let's see how it pans out. Margo's still in a good position as well. Sort of Margo. There's always something in Fashion Corner on Margo. So let's have a trip over there and see what she's been wearing this week.
Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner. Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner.
I want to start Fashion Corner this week with special mention to the leg warmers from the old jumper, because I think that's a genius idea. If you've got a jumper there that can be sort of repurposed as 2 things, then that's great. So they got a tabard and leg warmers from an old jumper, and the leg warmers did look very sort of snug and comfortable. In that same scene when Margo turns up, I think you said about her wearing half an abattoir, which is very true. She's got a matching fur coat and hat. The cake looks like no, not the cake. The hat looks like a cake.
Yes.
In this scene,
yeah.
It's like one of those very sort of sticky up round, like a fluffy cake, shall we say? Quite a 70s style, perhaps. I remember my nana had a fur coat. I think she had a fox stole, actually, which is quite creepy. But it was of the time where you could just swan about with your fox on. In the high street scene where Margo and Tom have gone down to Dorking, Tom's huge flares in the high street are worth a mention in Fashion Corner. You don't tend to see sort of legs, do you? Sort of like legs downwards. Do you know what I mean? Sort of
in sitcoms.
Feet and yeah, because obviously they're usually being shot from like the waist upwards, maybe. But his flares are huge, so the funky music around that point does actually fit quite well with Tom's massive flares. Back at Tom and Barbara's house in the kitchen, when she's baking the bread and Jerry turns up, Barbara is particularly cool looking in this scene with a paisley lilac headscarf on, check shirt, striped pinny and patchwork skirt. It's a bit of a mishmash of clothes just sort of put together. It's not really held together by a certain style, but I think Barbara rocks that, the sort of eclectic look. It was worth a definite mention. And Margot's cardigan, she's got an orange, green, yellow striped wool cardigan towards the end, which is, it just looks big and comfy and unctuous, if that's a word. Just looks dead cosy and not very Margo-y. It's when she comes round to say that she's left Jerry, and you don't often see Margo in comfy clothes.
Well, she's got half of Mr. T's jewellery on as well at this point. She's got about 6 chains around her bloody neck, hasn't she?
This cardigan, to me, said comfort and help and support that she was sort of needing from the goods.
Right.
All was sort of connoted, I think, in this cardigan. So yeah, there was later on as well, when she and Jerry make up, Margo at this point is then dressed in a navy brimmed hat, navy suit with white trim, red flower, white gloves and gold buttons down the front of the jacket. So it's almost like she's sort of taken back the power. She's empowered again.
Well, she looked almost like she was in the Navy, like Popeye or something.
Yeah. She's sort of taken back some strength, I think. And, so it was quite different to the scene previously with the warm cardigan. Yeah, back to the old Margo, especially with the red flower. You always know she's on top of a game when she's got a flower on.
Yes, I suppose so. Did Maggie often have a flower?
I don't remember Maggie having a flower.
I'll have to look into that. Maybe it was something that was brought in to mimic the leader of the opposition as she was at the time. Because we're looking for parallels now. Maybe we're seeing them where there isn't one.
I don't. The flower doesn't stand out to me, but yeah, perhaps.
Going off topic a bit. Have you been watching The Crown to see Gillian Anderson's performance as Thatcher?
Yeah, it's quite unsettling how amazing I think she is.
Yeah, I've gone full circle on her. I used to think she was quite limited, but the roles I've seen her in recent years, she's a fine actress, isn't she?
It was the portrayal of Maggie is I think one, because I think they're all sort of mimicky kind of roles where you are obviously, if you're playing somebody that's a real life person, it is mimicry, isn't it? You are just acting like that person, but sometimes it's quite hit and miss with The Crown. There's some that you go, oh my god, yeah, I can see that, that's brilliant. Her portrayal of Thatcher, I think, just she knocks it out the park. She really does.
Yeah. I've only seen clips, but it's certainly made for a challenging wank.
It's uncanny, yeah.
I think I'll stick to the X-Files in the future when I want to see Gillian Anderson.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
Next week's episode, do you know what it's called?
I don't know what it is. I've not looked, I'm sorry.
Nor me. Shall we just leave it as a mystery rather than look it up?
Surprise!
I haven't looked what it is, so you know what? If you want to know what it is, fucking look yourself. You know, don't rely on us. We can't do everything for you. We're going to pick the fucking thing apart next week, so we've got enough on our plates. If you want to know what the next one is, get on IMDb and look for yourself.
That's exciting, because it'll be a nice big surprise for us all.
That's the listeners told. That's 3 of them unsubscribed.
Go!
No, stay with us. You're nearly at the end of the Good Life now. You might as well stick around.
We're in the home straight. It's nearly toy day.
Toy day.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
So if you're enjoying what we're doing, that's great news. We're nearly at the end. But if you're going to carry on with us, we're at SADDO Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, where we post rare videos and all sorts of bits and pieces. On Facebook, you can find us by searching for SADDO Podcast. Subscribe to our newsletter by visiting our website at saddo.club. You can find out more information about us, read the blog, listen to episodes if you don't do podcast apps. Get in touch with us. You can email us at saddopodcast@gmail.com. Tell us all about the things that we've missed. And please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from.
This is the bit where we don't know what to do. Having not even told you what next week's episode is going to be, shall we just end the episode without saying anything? Not even an "I'll see thee."
People
just
might think...
to subvert the format.
Do we let everyone do a goodbye? Goodbye.
Goodbye. That's it. Fuck off now. No, I can't help myself. I'm going to have to say goodbye properly.
You're getting D-Mob happy.
I'm just trying to burn down everything we've built.
Just kick it all over.
Oh, well, all right then. So we'll see you next week for the mystery episode, which is Series 4, Episode 5. Thanks for listening. We do appreciate you, honestly. Come back and join us next week.
Goodbye.
I'll see thee. That was loud.